Up YouTube, it's Raz again. So if you follow my streams or you've been by this YouTube channel, check out my build guides, you know that I'm a big fan of the life stacking playstyle. So of course I'm gonna be starting off this new game with BloodMage. I was super hyped for it, but they did nerf it pretty hard, which I'll go over in a little bit. It's a GIGANERF really. But, you know, there's no way to really tell how bad the nerf is because we don't have the full picture. The first thing I'm going to go over is why it's really hard to make a build going into POE 2. Because, like, even just looking through this, it's really hard to have any context whatsoever of, like, what you're actually looking at. Because I noticed that if you look at, like, the Ascendancies in POE 1, you kind of have an idea of their power because you have an idea, well, as far as like veteran players go, I wouldn't say it for new players, but, and this is probably why the game is so inapproachable to new players. It's basically like, even when I'm looking at these here on the screen, it's like you have no context whatsoever for what else is in the game. So like you don't know what the combat is going to be like, really. Like you've seen some of it, but you don't know like what is going to be important to your efficiency. You know, how important is your bossing skills going to be? How many different skills are you going to have to use? What uniques are in the game, right? So between not knowing actually how the gameplay is, and then what other uniques and powers and stats and mods you can get from other items, none of these notables have any context. I mean, we don't even have the full passive tree, at least we didn't as I'm making this video. So like you really don't have any context for these, so any kind of guide or anything that comes up now is just going to be generalized. So obviously this isn't a guide. This is just going to be what I like going into it and like what my opinion is. So let's just go over this real quick and then I'll let you know what I like and what the nerf was, and then we'll close it out and then I'll see you on the stream when it launches. Alright, so if you pick BloodMage, you have to take Sanguimancy, so that's going to take your 2 points. As far as I'm aware, you do get 8 points, so we should be able to get 4 notables. So you get Life Remnants, and it says basically, drink the blood of your enemies to restore your life. While active, enemies you kill have a chance to spawn a Life Remnant, and critically hitting a target spawns a Life Remnant every few seconds. Picking up a Life Remnant grants you life, which can overflow your max life, and in POE 2, overflow allows you to double whatever the resource is. So as you pick these up, if you had 1,000 life, you can go up to 2,000 life. I don't know how much they give right now, and it looks like it's a skill, so it will be supportable, but I don't know really what you could support with it, but I guess we'll find out. So that's basically, everybody gets that. And so now at least we know that it works with bosses, because I was a little worried about that. Like you don't have to like have bosses spawn ads, or you'd have to like spawn stuff and kill it to get the orbs. Then you got Vitality Siphon, which is 10% of spell damage leeches life. That's good, especially since you're going to have to pay a base life cost equal to mana cost with Sanguimancy. Then you have Open Swords, gives you your Curses have infinite duration. That's not really something I'm interested in, but there might be a build that can take advantage of it. Blood Barbs, which is number 4 here, gives you gain 10% of damage as extra physical damage. Elemental damage also contributes to bleeding magnitude. Now, I'm not really 100% sure how this works. I'm pretty sure that physical damage by default doesn't do bleed. Right? Like I know fire damage on crit used to do ignite, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out at launch. But either physical damage is going to be guaranteed to do bleed, and then it's going to convert your Ellie into counting as fizz to also stack bleeds, or you're going to have to get some bleed chance. Now this was the big one for me. Gore Spike. It says 1% increased critical damage bonus per 40 life. So that's basically kind of like our Wrathpith was for spell damage, right? We just stack that crit damage multi. Now unfortunately, I was so hype about this in the beginning, but here was the original one that was in the live stream broadcast for Gore Spike when they did their live stream preview. It was 1% increased critical damage bonus per 20 life, but it got giga nerfed by half. So they literally doubled the amount of life required to get the same 1% increased critical damage bonus. Now again, they say it's nerfed, but we have no idea. We have no context on what damage is like in this game. So maybe it was just absolutely insane, you know, and you were one-shot and everything. So I guess we'll find out, because I know there's another notable that makes you ignite yourself whenever you crit, but it gives a flat 30% crit multi. I think that's on one of the sort trees. The Stormweaver, I think. Anyway, so we have no context for this, but hopefully it'll still be great. And then we have Sunder the Flash, which is base critical hit chance for spells is 15%. Now, a lot of the big spells I noticed, they already have like 12% base crit chance, stuff like that. So this will be good for like the spells with the lower base crit, but we don't know how accessible critical hit is. You know, we don't have any idea of like how much crit you can really expect to get. So again, it's really hard to make a determination on what this is without context. You know, if you're trying to make a spell that has 5% base crit, up to 15, then that's really good. But if it's like 12%, you're just adding 3% to it. While that's not terrible, it's still, you know, nowhere near as strong for a whole point. Then we got Grasping Wounds, which is 25% of life loss from hits is prevented, but then that much life is taken over 4 seconds instead. So it's like, what was it? Petrified Blood did something similar, and the Progenesis from Maven. So this looks really good, help you prevent one-shots, to give you some extra tankiness, and you're probably going to be really focused on life regen and recovery anyway. And then for number 8, let's get this off the screen since it's dead to us. Rip. Gain energy shield from equipped body armor is extra life. So like this one seems really good, but I feel like it's weak for its position. Like it's so far. You have to go through Grasping Wounds and then go just get more life here. I don't know. I'll tell you what I like so far. And again, no context. So you just have to kind of take it for what it is for now. Nothing is going to be accurate until we have the full context of all the uniques and the other powers and the stats and the mods, you know, all that stuff, and what the combat is like before we actually know what's good. But from here, what I would think I would be leaning towards is obviously you have to take number 1. So we just have basically to pick 3 more. I think Vitality Siphon. So we'd be taking this and this. All right, so we're getting the 10% spell leech if we're going spells. Because remember, you could do this with bows, like whatever you want. But the critical hit damage bonus, though, doesn't scale with just spells. It can be everything. So you can play like a life stacking bow build or a life stacking monk or whatever and still get the crit multi. But anyway, so for me, if I'm going to try to do spells, I'm looking at taking Sanguimancy, Vitality Siphon, Gore Spike, and Grasping Wounds. Now there's a chance, depending on how it works, especially if crit is really low early, we unspec out of Gore Spike and take Blood Barbs just for the damage. So we'll end up having the leech, the survivability, and then the extra damage from Blood Barbs, especially if the Fizz guarantees the bleeds. But I'm sure there'll be uniques. You know, here's hoping that they're gonna have, you know, I want my Blood Sacrament, but you know, we'll find something. Anyway, that's all I got. Just want to let you know about the nerf and what my plans were going into the league. So we're going to be starting Witch. And we're going to do BloodMage and see what we can do with it. Really appreciate you guys if you watch this far. You can catch me out on Twitch, Raz311 at Twitch.tv or whatever. Or sub here. I'll have guides and stuff up as soon as I figure out what's going on, just like everybody else. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.